Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. I'm Saeed Khan, broadcasting from a pretty nice day today here in the Metro Detroit area. I hope it's nice wherever you are as well. We are joined, of course, with the OG of our esteemed group of panelists that we always have and always appreciate on the show. We have right now two of our veteran attorneys, Joel Sklar and Bill Seikaly. By the way, to borrow from Mean Girls, I think there's a 30% chance that Steve Fishman will join. If you know Mean Girls, you'll know the reference. Labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. Well, we are now approaching the 9th week of the war with Iran, and the president seems to have blinked again. In fact, on Tuesday, which then falls right into that wonderful narrative about Taco Tuesday, in this case, the acronym being Trump always chickens out, he has extended the ceasefire seemingly indefinitely vis-a-vis Iran. He has also, though, extended the ceasefire regarding Israel and Lebanon. While that goes on, the blockade still persists, and it seems as though there's a tit for tat. The U.S. has been, in fact, launching missile strikes on cargo ships, ostensibly heading toward Iran, and in fact, also seizing an oil tanker in the Indian Ocean, while it looks like Iran is similarly stopping some shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. I guess we're back to that now. It's no longer the Strait of Iran. Only 5 ships have made it through the Strait of Hormuz in the last 24 hours, which of course is creating chaos for many of the Gulf states and their economies and their livelihoods. Where do we see this going?
Nowhere good.
Okay, Allan?
They're stuck. I mean, Trump totally flubbed this, had no concept of what a formidable opponent Iran is, and now he's stuck, and he's trying to figure out how to weasel out of this with and saving face. But he's so far, he seems clueless. You know, I mean, and it makes America look weak when they were supposed to be. You know, we keep forgetting we're this big, powerful country. You know, we lost Vietnam. We certainly didn't win Afghanistan. And we always think we're such a powerful country, we can take on these little countries and kick the shit out of them, and they'll roll over. When in fact, you know, they don't.
Well, part of the problem, Allan, is Iran isn't a little country, so
that's part of it. That's exactly part of it.
Right. I think that Trump has demonstrated himself to be a clown on an international stage. It's all clear to everybody that he's a clown. His administration is a clown, that he is lost. He doesn't know what he's doing, that he's surrounded by incompetence. And the world knows this. I think this is kind of Trump's greatest fear, that he has been publicly outed for the idiot that he is. We all knew it. The world knew it, but now Iran is actually saying you're an idiot, calling him out on it, establishing his lies, and just they have these. And I talked to Allan about it. They have these Lego animated little cartoons that are fucking brilliant, and they go about Kash Patel with his little drinking. They have Heg Smith. You know, how do you handle a drunken Whiskey Pete in the morning? You know, just some really clever things, but it establishes that we are a clown. I mean, Trump is a clown. We are kind of in a circus ourselves, and that's what it's established. He's an impotent guy, man. He's weak. He got no game, and everybody knows it. And,
on that, I think, Allan, we've got some video regarding Kash Patel.
Oh, we've got some video on the Trump fans. Let's play that.
Okay, let's do that first.
What has he done that you're proud of?
Everything. Like, America's fucking free. Yeah. Right now, this is the best the country's ever been.
Talk to me about the accomplishments.
Venezuela, big. Border, big.
He originally brought gas prices down, and he's going to do that again.
He gets to do it twice. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Some goals have been achieved.
Yeah, some have.
Ballrooms, face on money.
Well, the
Kennedy
ballroom
Center
is something different, and Obama put in a basketball court, so who complained about that? Nobody.
Which wing did Obama knock down to put up that basketball court?
I don't know.
Probably the East Wing.
Probably the East Wing.
He goes in, gets done what he says he's going to do, and he does what he says.
Promises made, promises kept.
Absolutely.
No new wars.
Yes. Yeah, nobody wants to go to war.
Nobody does. Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
What do you think about the war with Iran?
I don't pay attention to it. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So still no new wars.
There you go. We are joined by our third veteran attorney, Steve Fishman. Good to have you, Fish. And Allan, I think regarding Kash Patel, we've got a little bit of video there.
Conference.
Did you communicate with anyone that you thought you were fired after you were unable to log into?
The problem with you and your report, don't cut me off. You asked the question.
Straightforward question.
The problem with you and your baseless reporting is that is an absolute lie.
Straightforward question. Did you talk to anybody about whether you thought
The simple answer to your question is you are lying. I was never locked out of my systems. Anybody who says
your lawsuit says the opposite. Your lawsuit can
anyone that says the opposite is lying. Thank you.
The lawsuit that you filed says that directly.
Look, man, stop. You're being extraordinarily rude.
You know they don't like that in that administration.
I guess he doesn't like. I guess Kash Patel doesn't like being called J. Edgar Boozer or Rum Dog Millionaire.
For those who don't know, the Atlantic reported that at one point recently he got locked out of his computer and he thought he'd gotten fired, and he called like 9 people saying, "I think I've been fired." It ended up being a glitch that IT got him into a system, so that was.
I think
maybe they thought he was the IT guy, because that would never happen. Bill,
Nancy, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say if Kash Patel is a drinker and Hegseth is a drinker, and this labor secretary who is just canned is a drinker, I'm kind of surprised, because the one thing that we do know about Trump is that he's not a drinker, and that he's pretty contemptuous of people who do drink to excess, because that's what killed his brother, right? Freddie, the golden child, was disappointed his dad and became an alcoholic and died young as a result. And I'm surprised that Trump would have so many of these people around him, unless he thought that they would be easier to manipulate. So
I think that's it. He sees them as weak, compromised, and he can manipulate them.
Who else is going to do what he says?
Bill.
I want to go back to this issue of the war in Iran, and the low-hanging fruit is Trump's an idiot. I agree with what Joel said. But my problem is that what he's done now is gotten us gotten the entire world into.
Oh no!
It's out there.
There you go.
I'm frozen. Oh
yeah.
There are stories out there that Europe is on the verge of not having any more jet fuel. Much of the world has a serious fuel shortage because of the Straits of Hormuz. We have a problem with fertilizer. Food prices are going up. Gas prices are going up. And look, Joel was absolutely right, and Allan was right. We lost in Vietnam, maybe a draw in Afghanistan. But if the playbook is written, if you're willing to do what America did during the American Revolution and fight an asymmetric war, not use traditional warfare, you can hold off the Americans. You can hold off these powerful nations. But at some point, somebody's going to do something stupid, and we're going to end up using atomic weapons, and we're going to really have a disaster. I don't know if these reports of Trump talking about wanting to pull out strategic nuclear weapons is true or not. But it's hard to look at this guy and just write that off.
Yeah.
That's the real danger, in my opinion.
Well, now we're getting into the prospect of other countries saying if either the U.S. or Israel go nuke, they might as well, including China and Pakistan. Hey, Nancy, on your bingo card back there, is there anything that you got on there about Pakistan becoming the new Switzerland?
No, sorry. I've told several people so far.
Nuclear weapons on your bingo card. I don't want that to hit.
The problem with my bingo card is the same problem with 9/11, a failure of imagination. I couldn't conceive of half of the stuff that's already happened, and it's only April. So That's the way that goes.
We
Just
could all-
one note. I was talking to a friend.
We could all channel Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka and sing about a world of imagination.
I was talking to a friend yesterday who was supposed to have a work trip to Australia in the next month or so, and it is looking like it's not going to happen because Australia has about 45 days of fuel, or at least, and sometime before that, they are probably going to have to institute strict limits on how much you can travel around the country. And, unless you're willing to get on a bicycle or a horse, I guess. And it's, that's not India. That's not, Indonesia. It's not some place that we can say, well, who cares? I mean, this is and it's going to happen elsewhere in Europe too. We're talking about taking a European trip later this year, and I'm thinking I need a T-shirt that says in 5 languages, "I did not vote for that asshole," so that we don't get hip checked on the subway or something. But
so speaking about a lack of imagination, Nancy, down under they got marsupials. So why are you talking about horses and other animals? And then they also
get on that kangaroo.
Yeah, and then culturally they have this thing called the walkabout. So and there's only 9 cities in the whole damn country, and they're all on the coast. So you could probably boat to one. But
yeah,
if any of you want to resurrect Kon-Tiki, we can sail across. But what about, along with that, the announcement by President Trump that he may want to bail out the United Arab Emirates because they're having some financial issue? I mean, this is the UAE. It's not exactly a destitute country, but I suspect that because he has some strong business interests for him and his family,
right,
to go ahead and right the rudder. But it seems as though MAGA is getting upset that he is looking to bail out other countries, especially one that is of Arab composition, as opposed to then solving problems back here at home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he doesn't admit there's problems back home, so that's easy enough to just blow off. Everything is fine. Everything is fine.
It would be better.
Yeah. I have a buddy that lives on the canals.
You mean in Detroit?
In Detroit, yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
He lives in
little Venice down by me.
Little Venice. And one of his joys is to sit on his porch and probably smoke a joint and watch the freighters go by. But the freighters aren't really going by anymore. They're down by 50%.
Wow.
He says, and he's a pretty good, I would say, Alan, Mike, I think he's a pretty good reporter on this. And he said they seem to be riding very high, which means they're empty. And that's concerning because that is all sorts of stuff that we need being carried. That's just one way, but as far as I can tell, the trains are still going, but who knows what's on them. And this is what is getting people who are not of the left-wing persuasion pretty upset because they were promised a glorious future. And instead, all the money is going to the Middle East for bombs or for help for wealthy countries. And this is gonna play a very big. Unfortunately, people like that tend to react badly.
Well, not only that, Barb, but I mean all of the reporting of some very suspicious stock transactions occurring 15 to 20 minutes before major announcements by the president on this. Someone's making money, and someone's making a lot of money on arbitrage on this. By the way, Barb, do you think that your friend can find out if maybe the reason for the fewer freighters is 50-year lag PTSD from the Edmund Fitzgerald? I'm asking for.
The gales of November came real early this year. So,
all right, Fish. We waited for you for 2 reasons before discussing the next topic. One is because we needed a minion. The second is because we wanted to get your input on the big event that happened here over last weekend, and that was the Michigan Democratic Party convention, which, by the way, shout out to our Center Square. Bill Seikaly wrote a terrific article about this, but they provided, tragically, an updated picture of him in the back. They would have shown the original street fighting man. I think they would have had far more viewership and readership. But anyways, so the party convention was one where, of course, brings all the Michigan Democrats to the yard, so to speak. And as far as for those of you who are unfamiliar, while the gubernatorial, the lieutenant gubernatorial races and the U.S. House and, well, basically U.S. and state House and Senate races are decided by primary in August. There are nominating procedures and votes that happen, including for Secretary of State, for Attorney General, and for the various governing bodies of the three major universities in Michigan, Michigan State, and Wayne State. Those all happened, and there was quite a bit of energy, apparently. I think over 7,000 delegates were there at Huntington Place, formerly Cobo Arena, to go ahead and decide. And it seemed like there was a little bit of excitement for everybody. So thoughts on and reflections?
Well, I don't know if I would call it excitement, but I think this is exactly where the Democrats are kind of headed. Every time Will Rogers said he didn't belong to an organized political party, he was a Democrat. I think this is going to be something that's going to really influence a lot of elections. I'm tired of hearing how the Republicans are all going to get killed. Republicans are down. Trump's approval rating is blah, blah, blah. I think that this conflict, I guess that's the right word for it, between those who oppose the Netanyahu government and much of what goes on in Israel, and those who just don't like Jews. That's a difficult subject. I know a lot of people. I don't know if you guys read this. Of all people, Alan Dershowitz, one of Jeff Epstein's pals, has now renounced the Democratic Party. Right?
Who cares?
Yeah,
Jesus, that guy has been a Republican in name. A Democrat in name only for years now. So good riddance.
I can tell you, I have to do a portion of our service tomorrow in the synagogue. And just for you guys, I'm going to engage in conversation with some of the parishioners about this entire situation. And I can tell you, it's not going to be good for the Democrats. It's nothing against Amir Macklin. I know him very well. I think he'll be fine. But the other stuff, shouting down Haley Stevens, I don't have any particular use for her either, but shouting down somebody that's talking and screaming because they took money from AIPAC. I wouldn't take money from AIPAC, and I'm Jewish, but it doesn't mean that the other candidate doesn't have the right to do it. And I think that the inability to distinguish between what you oppose in the Netanyahu government and the way the state of Israel's behaved for 20 years and what you think about Jews in particular, it's going to be a tough haul, in my view. I think we're going to lose. We, the Democrats, are going to lose a lot of Jewish votes because of what happened this weekend. And I go back to the single dumbest thing that was said through all of this crap with the war in Iran. Why Marco Rubio said what he said is beyond my comprehension. And I think that's something that people were waiting to hear. And I think that that's something that people are having in their minds. So that's my thoughts. I'll give you more thoughts once I talk to some of my fellow parishioners tomorrow.
All right, Nancy.
Interesting point of view there, Steve. It aligns perfectly with what Nolan Finley wrote this week. So, take that for what it's worth. It's a long time.
I sent him an email, by the way.
Rude to Steve.
And I said, for once, Nolan, we agree.
We always hear about how people don't pay attention to stuff like this. This is kind of inside baseball. It's the nerds, only the party nerds pay attention to this stuff, the party faithful. It's a long way until November. And let's not pretend that candidates like, what's her face, Epstein, the one who's
Lena Epstein,
Lena Epstein, or some of these other, lunatic. He's talking about Garland Gilchrist as though he's some sort of, raging pinko, and it's like, come on. I mean, the guy's barely got a pulse. He's a nice guy, but he's not what you would call like an exciting, politician. There's stop pretending as though what they're facing in November falls closer to the normal center than this. I think you're right. There is obviously, and this is what Bill's thing was about, you can oppose Israel all day and not be an anti-Semite. But it's like, I think that is kind of a almost Talmudic thing that regular voters just aren't going to give that much thought to.
By the way, Nancy, I think Tour de France cyclist and tennis player Bjorn Borg had a sitting heart rate of 35. Gilchrist might be in that category.
He's a cyclist. He's a devoted cyclist. When he lived in Detroit, I don't think their family even owned a car.
Yes.
I mean, they went everywhere on public transit and on bicycles.
So if he has a semi-pulse, that might explain it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bill. Then
one last thing I just want to say. I file an awful lot of what Nolan Finley says under the category of advice from your enemies. And so I'm not going to panic yet. I think there were some really unfortunate performances at the convention over the weekend, but I don't think they're necessarily election killers. That's it. Sorry. Bill?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill, and then I'll go.
Yeah, I wanted to support what Steve said. I mean, look at this perceived alliance, if you will, between people who legitimately oppose Netanyahu and anti-Semites who are just jumping on the bandwagon. It's dangerous. There's no question it's dangerous. But I want to go back to some basics. Why are we as Democrats where we are with this? Why are all these litmus tests developing? Why is it either you're with us or you're against us? This is the Trump effect. I mean, this is what Trump has made this country. It's black, it's white. There's no nuances. There's no debate. There's no discussion. And we've talked about this before on this program. How do we get back to some semblance of discussion and legitimate debate? Because we're not right now. I don't agree with Steve on this. I'm always loath to say that because he's usually right. I don't know that this convention is going to cause this rift amongst the Jews and the Democrats. It's a problem. What's going to make a difference is what happens over the next 6 months. Who actually gets the nomination for Senate? And what does AIPAC, by the way, do? Here's my big fear. AIPAC really comes in and gives Haley Stevens $10 million in the primary, and she wins it. That's going to cause a huge rift in the Democratic Party. It'll be a disaster. But I think that there's a lot of room between here and there. I was talking to Mike Pitt yesterday, who's a Jew, clearly supports Israel. And he's trying to encourage me to meet with Abdul Saeed. These things are not all that black and white, nuanced, and people need to have space for that.
Right.
Alan,
I agree with Bill. Bill,
I'm sorry, I cut Barb off. Sorry.
No. Finish and then
Okay. I was going to say, I think it's great to have dialogue about it. I've felt all along, even during the George W. Bush administration, that it's dangerous, particularly with a guy like Netanyahu, to give Israel carte blanche. It's not good for Israel. It's not good for America. It's not good for the world. I think it's great to have dialogue, but I think what happened over the weekend is like, people say, oh, the anti-Israel voices have been silenced. But in that case, over the weekend, the pro-Israel voices, Haley Stevens was not only shouted down, but somebody who was there said that some people were yelling like sexually inappropriate things and anger, and she couldn't speak. And so I do know, speaking to a lot of Jewish friends who are really upset about it and who are saying, I'm going to be an independent now. That doesn't mean they won't vote Democratic, but they're feeling hurt that, like the Israeli thing has been shouted down. And I'll tell you that, it's gotten to the point where I was at Grand Circus Park for the No Kings Day, and somebody had a sign that said, "Fuck Israel." I can guarantee you, if somebody even had a sign that said, "I support the right for Israel to exist," they would probably have a hard time and feel a little intimidated, if not fearful. And that, so I think that it's good to have conversation because it's such an important issue, but we can't have one side shouting down the other and silencing the other, and both sides need to be heard.
Sorry, Barb.
All right. I know a lot of people that went to the convention. I was not one of them, but I know people that I would easily consider sane, not shouty Democrats that went there for a whole lot of reasons, and they thought it was a very, very successful convention. The part that has made people crazy is the three candidates speaking, and whether you think that you don't want to hear. Haley Stevens has had a lot of opportunity to speak, and she's been and she hides. So she shouldn't be surprised that when she shows up to a room full of Democrats that they want her to go fuck off. I don't know whether that's fair or not. If she is the candidate, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for her. But I promise you, I'm going to call her office every day and tell her to pull it together. But I also think that this is something that we have to face, is people are blaming Israel. Most of the anti-Israel people I know are in Jewish Voice for Peace. They're Jews, and this is what's driving this a great deal. But I think that outside of the Democratic Party is where we really have to worry, and this goes back.
Uh-oh. She froze.
Just as like an academic issue, like I think it's very fair for the Democrats. I think it's fair for the Democratic Party to reassess how it feels about Israel. I mean, Israel it's fair game. It's not anti-Semitic. I don't feel offended when people talk about whether or not the United States should be supporting Israel to the magnitude that it does. Those are fair questions. Israel has manifested a policy that is viscerally disgusting. I can't argue that fact. And I'm a voter. I'm a citizen. When I grew up, Israel was a spunky country that was staying alive. It ain't that spunky country anymore. It's become what Israel always, I thought, detested. And so I think it's a fair question for Democrats to ask, why do we support Israel if they're not going to effectuate a policy that I think is humane? And I think those are fair questions, and I don't take offense to them. I think, I know what I'm being, I know when people don't like me because I'm Jewish. I've had it. I've been, I understand that this isn't one of those. It's a fair conversation. If it stays fair, there's no offense. Once it gets that Jews control this, I'm a Jew. I control nothing. I mean, and those things, truly. I mean, I don't know who the hell those shows.
You control your own behavior.
But when it gets to those tropes, that's what you'd like to believe. But when it gets to those tropes, then it gets overboard. But the conversation is completely fair and relevant, and I understand the Democrats wanting to withdraw a little bit that support.
Joe, I'm sorry. Alan, you want to go?
I can finish. I went off for a minute. My computer froze a little bit. I just want to finish a thought. The people that are the problem are the same ones we were talking about earlier that voted for Trump, and now everything is going away. And I think it's really easy. It is really easy to blame Jews. And like you say, the old tropes that come back, I see on social medias and with people that I talk to all the time, the idea that the Jews own all the media. Jews own the television. But it's
right. It's true.
Why don't you stop, Alan?
Nobody invites me to these things.
Wait a minute.
Part of the cabal. I am a cabal advocate.
Alan, don't you quit claim it to me between sunset tonight and sunset tomorrow?
But that's the part that worries me. I think a robust Democratic convention is just fine. And it's the first time they've had this many people in forever. So
I want to circle back to what Joel was talking about, because what I see going on in this country as it relates to Israel is a lot like what I saw going on in Europe related to Trump. When Trump first got elected, people in Europe were saying, we love America. We're not nuts about Trump. We don't like Trump. We love America. What has happened under Netanyahu has been there for how long now? 16?
20 years, except for 2.
Right.
Okay. For 20 years is people used to talk about the Netanyahu regime versus Israel. And Steve's talked about this a lot. There's a great gap between Netanyahu and many in Israel. But the rest of the world isn't making that distinction anymore. What Netanyahu did in Gaza, what he's doing in the West Bank, and what he's allowing to have done in the West Bank, and what's going on in Lebanon is now all being attributed to Israel. Just like in Europe, people have stopped talking about, we love America, we don't like Trump. People are talking about, you put him in twice.
Yeah.
You made the decision to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
And the disdain for America has substantially increased. I don't know how we're going to get it back. And that is a big part of what I see going on in this country as it relates to Israel.
Yep.
Can I just address Layla's comment? Thank you, Layla, for giving that regarding people aren't against Jewish people, they're against Zionists. I think unfortunately, I think a little bit more complicated. There are people who are pro-Zionist and anti-Jewish. There are people who are anti-Zionist and anti-Jewish. There are people who are pro-Jew, who are Jewish actually, who are anti-Zionist, and you've got, of course, everything in between. So I think because of that, it becomes a bit more complicated, and unfortunately, people sometimes essentialize it one way or the other. They'll say, "Well, we're not against Zionists. We're just against the state of Israel. As far as the government goes, we're okay with the Jews." So, just to bring some texture to that, Steve.
This whole discussion started when you asked me, at least the way I heard it, you asked me what's the reaction of the Jews. All this stuff about what everybody else thinks.
No. I didn't ask the question. I actually said your thoughts about the convention.
I think that people like Allan and Joel and me, we all think the same way. Everything Joel said about what's been going on in that country for 20 years, I agree with. But that's not the way I took the question. That's why I said I'm going to find out tomorrow a little bit more. You got to understand that there are plenty of Jews who don't associate basically with anybody else other than Jews. And those are the kind of people that they feed off of each other's insecurities, and they start thinking that the Holocaust is coming. And that's what I was trying to explain to you guys. It's not like talking about, is this right? Is that right? Is Bibi an asshole? Is the state of Israel changed? It's how do the Jews today look at themselves, and as a result of this weekend, how are they looking at their relationship to the Democratic Party? I'm not saying I agree with them. I don't agree with them at all. Joel and I think pretty much look at the world the same way. We know what's right and what's wrong. And personally, as you guys well know, I'm not the least bit scared of anybody who's anti-Semitic. I don't give a shit about any of them.
He went to Mumford, God damn it.
I'm trying to explain to you that there are people who are isolated. They're very much isolated. They don't go on shows like this. They don't talk to Arabic people. They don't talk to Gentiles. They don't talk to anybody. No black people. They talk to themselves. And that's how this stuff feeds. And I'm sure it's the same in other societies as well. So
it's a problem with, I think Steve's absolutely right. It is the problem with tribalism.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, I think people are also, it seems, looking for somebody to blame. Haley is, I think, polling third by a lot in a three-way race for Senate with Abdul El-Sayed and Mallory McMorrow. I think
she's in a dead heat. And,
yeah.
And if you were generous, you could say that Mallory McMorrow is Haley Stevens without the baggage. You know, she's
well. Also, I mean, Haley's also losing to undecided. She's polling at about 11% the last time I checked. The others are in their 30s.
Right.
She's really lagging, and I think it becomes very easy to then go ahead and try to find a scapegoat, other than the fact that she's a terrible politician. She's a terrible candidate. And not a very effective speaker, even if she wasn't being drowned out by booze. So, I mean, full disclosure, I once met her, had a conversation with her for 90 minutes, and I found her to be particularly intellectually incurious. She asked me about...
Incurious.
Incurious.
Say not curious. Okay.
Yes. And she asked me about the Middle East, and I told she said, tell me something I don't know. And I said, yeah, well, I mean, China's inroads into the Middle East, and this is before the yuan and petrodollars. And she says, wow, I didn't know that. And then she says in the next sentence that she's on the she's a ranking member of the subcommittee on China with Ro Khanna. I'm like, how the hell do you not know this? How do you know less than I do?
Yeah.
So that was disconcerting. The other thing is, I think, in the race, as Steve mentioned, for the U of M regents, which usually shouldn't be this big of a race, but we have attorney Amr Maklad, who represented several of the protesters in U of M who were adversely affected, in part by at least policies that Jordan Acker had put into place. Now come revelations that he hired a private investigation company to spy on Palestinian protesters, activists, and students, notwithstanding the allegations of the inappropriate remarks on Slack. I don't know how much of the vote was a protest vote against Jordan Acker for policies. I don't know how much of it had to do with the fact that they didn't like that he was anti-BDS. In a three-person race, if you're anti one person, well, then the other two people are going to prevail, Amr Maklad and Paul Brown. And at the same time, if this is being placed on the progressive wing of the party, they voted and brought in Eli Zavid, who is Jewish, former clerk to Ruth Bader Ginsburg at the Supreme Court. And I can tell you from knowing students at U of M, they loved Eli Zavid because he stood up to Jordan Acker, he stood up to the regents, who were launching a blistering campaign against him for not bringing prosecutions against the students. And that's why Acker did the circumvention and went to Nestle. So I think that when we're looking at these things, it would be, of course, it would be wrong to say that Israel wasn't part of the calculus. It would be wrong to say that a particular Jewish orientation politically wasn't in the calculus. But I think it's a far more complex thing from what I'm seeing happening. Nancy, Bill, Alan.
Okay, before we put this topic to bed, I hope that Steve will ask tomorrow, where are Jews going to go if they're turning their back on the Michigan Democratic Party? Because if they're running into the arms of the Republicans, they are truly running into the arms of anti-Semites. I mean, I don't think we need to see too much more from, the people who back Trump to agree or to convince me that these people are true anti-Semites. It has nothing to do with Israel. They just don't like Jews. And if they're talking about sitting things out, like so many people in Dearborn did in 2024, well, God bless you, but I think it's a big mistake. I mean, I think I've told this story before, but some months ago I was in Hamtramck and I pulled up. Go ahead.
1 second, Steve. Let me do this part of it. First of all, I know it's not popular anymore for Arabs to consider themselves Semitic, but you miss a fundamental truism of Semites.
Okay, well then anti-Jew. I mean, I know that there are Semites who are Arabs. No, I'm just saying.
Enemy of my enemy is my friend is a notion that comes out of the Middle East. And look, if you're a single candidate, if you're a single issue voter, and what you want is the support of Israel, tell me where Trump doesn't say yes to everything Netanyahu wants.
Well,
and therefore, I don't care if they hate me, as long as they do what I want them to do and support Israel.
Well, how many people in Dearborn? I saw a Jill Stein bumper sticker in Hamtramck a few months ago. It was all I could do not to roll down my window and yell out, "How's that working out for you?" Because the same people who voted for Jill Stein because Joe Biden was funding genocide It's like, what do they think Trump is doing with Bibi Netanyahu? I mean, come on.
I agree, Nancy, but
don't throw your vote away. Is all I'm saying.
You're applying logic to a psychological situation,
which is not logical.
No. Steve,
I know we're trying to finish this thing up. Just so you know, Nance,
yeah,
there's a decent percent having nothing to do with the war in Iran, having nothing to do with anything. Joel and I can tell you, there's a decent percentage of Jews, particularly wealthy ones, who are Republicans now, and they've been Republicans.
Absolutely.
And they're the people I can't stand talking to in the synagogue.
I know.
All they care about is their goddamn taxes.
I know. I totally understand
You
that.
know,
I totally understand that.
and same in the Arab and the Muslim community. I mean, 30% voted for Trump back in 2024. So because remember, small business, social values, and all. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I mean, the sort of the American myth, they lean pretty heavily into that. So the identity politics notwithstanding, the issue of Israel notwithstanding, and remember, now you find a lot of Arab and Muslims actually voted for Saeed instead of Karen McDonald, who they saw as just another establishment hack without any kind of track record, whereas Saeed, I think, like the Mamdani effect, standing up to power centers and showing integrity played a really big role in that. So, Allan,
I mean, interesting that crowd. I mean, Eli Savitt is Jewish, but it's also the Bernie Sanders. It's basically the Bernie Sanders crowd, which is Bernie Sanders is very anti-Israel. So people don't really identify Bernie Sanders as Jewish, although you couldn't sound more Jewish than this.
I have he's anti-Israel. I think he's anti-Netanyahu. I think he's anti-policies of what Israel has been doing. I think this is the problem, Ellen. I think it's unfair to say Bernie Sanders is anti-Israel. I think that he is concerned about the policies that Israel is using to protect itself. There's a big difference there.
I'm concerned about those policies too, but I feel like he hasn't made that distinction. But you could be right. I'm just saying. But the other thing I was going to say is that I think it's great that there be dialogue. I think, and I've always said, Israel should not be given carte blanche by the U.S. But what we see is some of that dialogue spills over into anti-Semitism of people hating. And it's like, grabbing the closest Jew. And it's like, I know this is an extremist case, but the guy who attacked Temple Israel, the FBI disingenuously held a press conference and said he was inspired by Hezbollah. But the reality was, his two brothers, one who was a member of Hezbollah, was killed in an Israeli airstrike along with their children. And that's when he planned that. And so what did he do? He went to the closest group of big Jews that he could find to kill the Jews. They're not Israelis. These little 5-year-olds aren't advocating for support of Israel. They just picked out some Jews. And it's happened. The 2 people who were killed in Washington, they were assassinated on the street. It's great to have dialogue, and we should have dialogue, but some of that does spill into people grabbing. The same way COVID, people started beating up Asians. After 9/11, people started attacking Arabs, just grabbing any Arab off the street.
Vincent Chin. I mean, that's part of the legacy here.
The intellectual part is great. The emotional and more ignorant side is not.
Joel.
My guess is that your rank and file Jewish voter like me is going to stick with the Democrats. I see myself as an American first. My religion is second to me. I want what's best for my country. I live here. I certainly do believe in a state of Israel for my preservation. I do want there to be, if you call that Zionist, then I guess I am. I do want a homeland for the Jews. I want a homeland for the Palestinians. I want the best of all those worlds. And so this fear that, I think that the way that we're looking at a Jewish population is, I think the youngers, I'm in my 60s. I think people that are younger see themselves, I'm hoping, a little bit removed from Israel and see themselves again more as American than a one issue voter. I know my son loves the state of Israel, but he's going to vote based on what's best for America, not what's best for the state of Israel. And I'm just telling you that's where things are going to move, I think. So, I think that the Democrats, the fear that, oh my God, where are we going to go? Where the fuck are we going to go? We're going to go with the Democrats. Where else are we going to go? I can't stand the Republicans. I can't vote for that. I'm not an independent. I'm a Democrat. I'm a civil rights lawyer. I want people to have more rights than less. And that's the way that I roll typically. That's how I always vote.
The Democratic Party has been asking for young people to join them for years. They've done everything they can except for, bring up policies that will help them and will help the future. I mean, they are a party in disarray, so they're getting what they wanted. They're getting DSA. They're getting all these young people. I completely reject the idea that all these young people are anti-Semites in any way. I really reject it. I think they don't like Israel. I don't think they don't like big money in politics. They don't like that Haley Stevens is getting bags of money while she sits and does nothing. Most of these people that I know that are in this section of the party were friends of Andy Levin. And that is so. I really think that the anti-Semitism is coming from another place, the same place that has brought us a lot of these awful MAGA jerks. And people are afraid. There's a daycare center here in Royal Oak that is guarded every day by a guy with a semi-automatic rifle. That's how scared people are, is that they don't want their children to be. I have two nieces who are Jewish, and they quit wearing their Stars of David that they got at their bat mitzvah because they can't stand being harassed for being Jewish. This isn't coming from people like me or like you guys. This is coming from somewhere else completely. And I think that that's scary, but I really have to reject that idea that that's, and if it gives us Abdul, I think it's a good guy.
There's probably a few there. But aren't there my guess is that of 100 that hate Israel, there's going to be quite a few that hate Jews. It's just they bleed into each other at times. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, it's just so hard.
Wait. Is there anybody on this panel who doesn't believe that racism and bigotry, anti-Semitism and anti-Arabs, that those feelings are alive and well in this country?
Right, but they're idiosyncratic to the person in a sense. It's those people in those crowds. There are some that are pure and wonderful. There's some that may not be so pure and wonderful.
That's right.
We tend to collectivize everybody, and everybody's a fucking individual. We forget that in our conversations, they, them, the collective does not represent the person necessarily. And we have to give credit for that.
I mean, anti-Semitism did not begin in 1948. I think it needs to. I mean, no. So I think your point is so right, because I think that it makes it easier for people to find cover in some cases. So, Allan,
I think there's a lot of people who mean well, who want good discussion. But there are people on both sides. There's on the Jewish side who say, there's the hardcore Jews who say, fuck the Arabs, Gaza, who cares? Israel has a right to do whatever it needs to do. And we have people on the other side on October 7th who were like, fuck the Jews. Finally, fuck them all. I don't give a shit about the Jews are evil. And, we had the Bloomfield Township trustee who was saying, the only more evil people or equally evil are the American Zionists she used a very vile term for them. So there are people who step over the bounds, but, I know the group here, and I know a lot of other people who want to have good discussions about it and have legitimate discussions. So.
Well, clearly Michigan is in play. Clearly the Metro Detroit area is in play. Kentucky governor and potential Democratic 2028 candidate Andy Beshear was here, urging Democrats to, in his words, act and speak like human beings, whatever that means. Flint Mayor Karen Weaver looking to back Duggan for the Michigan gubernatorial race. A couple other things I thought that bear mentioning. Of course, we have another resignation. Actually, we have two. One is Lori Chavez de Remer, the labor secretary under Trump, as well as Phelan, the Navy secretary. And it looks like Nancy's starting her weekend early with the hand gesture.
Well, I was just going to say the drunk,
okay,
the labor secretary. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in the case of Secretary Phelan, it looks like an inversion. A drunk went ahead and fired a sober person.
Did you see the story in the New York Times about why he got fired?
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. And by the way, I just want to point out that almost
those just quickly, those of us who don't know,
person who couldn't produce enough Trump class destroyers.
No, he couldn't produce any of them because Trump claimed this is a brand new battleship, and he gave him this insane timeline. You're supposed to Detroit turns out a car over a 3-year timeline. He was supposed to turn out a battleship on a 2-year timeline, and it was not going well. And then Trump claimed that
battleship.
Yeah. And it's like, why do we care about battleships at a time when we're fighting, when the damage is being done by drones, cheap ass drones? I mean, the Ukrainians spend about $2,500 for these things, and we're talking about a new class of battleship for what? I mean, is it 1805? Ocean become battlefields?
It's the name. It's the name.
Nancy, all you got to do is Lego. All you need is one weekend. You can build a battleship and then slap the name on.
But anyway, that was the story.
Couple other things. Speaking of Kash Patel, he's suing the Atlantic for defamation for $250 million in
Slam
damages.
dunk. Okay.
So that should be interesting. And also, Alan, I want to take your take because you've been reporting on this for quite a while. Apparently, retired federal judge Nancy Edmonds has said that she's disappointed that Trump commuted former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick's sentence.
I think it was clear if you covered the trial, she had disdain for him. She felt the evidence was overwhelming. And she gave, I thought the 28-year sentence was excessive, but, I don't know, 15 years is enough, 12 years is enough. I'm not sure why 28 years was so. I know they based it on the precedent of in Cuyahoga County, the county executive there got 28 years, but that was a total aberration. And so I don't think it's good to take one aberration and base the precedent on that, but I'll leave that to the lawyers on that. But she was not happy that her sentence was undermined by that.
If she wants to be mad about that issue, the ridiculous pardons and commutations that he's given out, what about these people who committed serious fraud that were supposed to pay back the people who they victimized and now don't have to give them time?
Right.
That seems worse than Kwame. But
I mean, Trump did not commute. He didn't pardon him. He commuted it, so he still owes money. So you can say that much for it. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, Trump has pardoned these people and wiped out their what they owe and
their judgments. Yeah, exactly.
The victims get nothing.
They're probably going and partying at Mar-a-Lago right now. So,
Steve, do you have any comment?
Her statement. I mean, if you read the interview, I don't think it was limited. She was asked about Kwame, but I think her criticism was broader than that. And I think what's important for people to know is that, we are not talking about a left-wing liberal judge here. I mean, Nancy Edmonds was, as a Republican, she was appointed by, I think, Bush the First. Am I right, Steve? Was it Bush the First that appointed Nancy Edmonds? She's a conservative judge. She's, she felt strongly about Kwame, but I mean, this was a pretty amazing thing for a judge like her to come out and say right after her retirement, in my opinion.
Deborah asked real quick, how does the independent vote work with the second two-party Democratic Republican? I mean, there is no, there are independent candidates to run, but there's no, you vote for one or the other if there's no independent party, or you vote for a third party or something. There's no category that shows you as independent.
In the general election, you can vote for anybody. So, well, Alan, before we go to our last segment, why don't we go to hear some words of wisdom from the Pillow Man himself?
No boy.
One of their candidates to succeed Tim Walz is our old friend, the My Pillow man, Mike Lindell.
Into our country, most of them break a law within the first 3 months. Most of them, we're on TV here, please. We're on TV, please. We're on TV, please. We're on TV, please. We're on TV, please. Okay, we're on TV, please.
What are you serving him with?
We're on TV, please. We're on TV,
What are you serving him with?
I'm not accepting. We're on TV.
Financial and perhaps mental issues, Mike managed to secure an endorsement not just from CPAC, but also from himself.
Hello there, it's Mike Lindell. You know who. I got thousands of pillows and a gun under each one. Next, vote for me. Let Neil Eckham. Who the hell printed this upside down so wrong? Hey, wrong house again.
All right, let's go to the last segment.
I love that. So, oops, let me find the last segment.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
All right, Fish, why don't you go first?
Well, mine is Bibi Netanyahu for two things. Number one, I just read today, he withheld from the Israeli public the fact that he'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer for 2 months.
Really?
And why did he do it? Because it would interfere, you see, with the war against Iran. That was his rationale, okay? And my second person has to do with Bibi as well. It's a rabbi by the name of Abraham Zarbiv, who has now received a big Independence Day ceremony award, and his claim to fame is he said that they should flatten, Israelis should flatten Gaza entirely. And somehow he's entitled to get an award on Independence Day. So Bibi's part of both of them, and the rabbi I'll toss him into. Those are my schmucks of the week.
Well, I mean, we're living in a world of inventing and creating new awards. I mean, I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi got a Knesset award. Trump got the FIFA Peace Award. So it's just, it used to be just getting a participant trophy back in Pee Wee League soccer, but I guess this is what you get when you keep it going. Barb.
I have two. It's really hard to keep it down to one. Kash Patel, among his rants, said that anybody that uses the term J. Edgar Boozer in public was going to get sued by him. So, and I can't find the name of the guy that did it, but that domain has been purchased. So you can go to jedgarboozer.com, and right now there's only a picture of him drinking with the U.S. hockey team. They promise more content to come, which I thought was pretty funny. But the other one is Donald Trump, who welcomed the Georgia women's tennis team.
I saw this
to
picture.
the White House to celebrate their big win. And the photo, you can see the women's team. They're completely in the back in front of some gold. And then there is a group of men standing right in front of them. One of them being Ted Cruz, and Trump standing on a little platform. And one of the women is looking around behind him, and I'm afraid that she smells what tends to come out of Trump at the time. But it's like his ego has, there's just nobody saying, maybe the women can go in the front. Maybe, and then you guys can stand it. But no, so yeah.
But
I
Barb,
usually leave them alone, but
Barb, after the Billy Bush interview, don't you think they felt safer being back there?
true. It probably is true. It's just the odors that I would worry about.
Let's hope they all had long COVID, and the effects of that mean that you don't have to worry about it. Okay, Bill.
Mine goes to Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, who, I am embarrassed to say that I recall defending this guy when he chose to represent Trump. And I said, hey, he's a great lawyer. People are entitled to representation. This guy has turned out to be a real piece of poop. And in terms of him heading up the Justice Department, as far as I'm concerned, with these renaming, they wanted to rename the Defense Department to the War Department. They might as well take Justice Department, throw that out the window, and just call it the Trump Law Firm. What he's doing is embarrassing, and
I agree.
And if they ever enforced impeachment laws, this guy should go.
All right. By the way, Andy Borowitz just said that breaking news: Iranians catch Jared Kushner trying to set up his own toll booth in the Strait of Hormuz. That's brilliant. Brilliant. All right. Joel.
Okay, I got two. One is the California millionaire big game hunter, 75, Ernie Docio, who got trampled by elephants he was trying to kill. I always think these things are like full circle. You know, they're sad but yet wonderful in their own way. There's a sense of this, but you know, it's strange. But in any event, he's one schmuck. You know, he's like get pictures of him standing in front of all sorts of beautiful beasts, right? And one of them got him. The other one is Megyn Kelly, who came to the revelation that Trump is not a moral man. You know, and I've been on the fence, right? I don't know, is he moral or not moral? And if Megyn Kelly says he is not moral, so she came to that revelation, as have I. So she is my other schmuck.
By the way, Joel, just a point of clarification.
Carlson agrees.
Mr. Docio was actually not hunting the elephants. He was hunting a dicker, which is an antelope-like creature in Gabon. He came upon, I guess the elephants were there in the dense brush, and they thought that he was going after their calf. And so they all decided to circle the wagons to protect him. And they stomped out that fire like Smokey the Bear.
Oh, my God. I know. Like a bag of poop on a doorstep.
The Daily Mirror actually had photographs of the trophy room in his house. And it was like the scene in Ace Ventura when nature calls. I mean, sort of this room of death. There were so many heads and everything.
He died what he loved doing.
There you go.
It's really important to know.
But the Daily Mirror didn't post the photo of this elephant standing around smoking a cigarette afterwards, because that's what I'd want to see. So anyway, Nancy.
Okay, before I start, I think I very quickly went online and searched this photo, and I want to. This is the picture that Barb was referring to. You can see in the back there; those are the women who are allegedly being honored, and there's Trump in the middle. Of course, I don't know who these other five guys are, but you can. The one there where the girl is kind of peeking out around the guy's head, so she can be in the picture. It's just like these guys talking about the game that couldn't shoot straight.
Well,
anyway,
Steve,
glad.
You would say the same thing, right? That they should have done what the U of M basketball team did and said, "We're not coming."
Yeah, exactly. They should have.
Exactly.
Anyway,
they never should have come in the first place.
I have to. I'm really glad that nobody else grabbed this, because I didn't have anybody else. As soon as I saw this story, I thought, got to be the schmuck of the week. RFK Jr. in his testimony before, I can't remember which committee it was, but Elizabeth Warren was talking to him, and she questioned him on the way the president keeps saying that they're bringing drug prices down by 700%, 1,000%, and she said, you know, that would mean that the drug company is actually paying you money to take the drug. It's like you can't reduce anything by more than 100%. And he said, President Trump has his own way of percentages. But then later that day in the Oval Office, he actually said this in front of a camera, a Democratic senator claims it's mathematically impossible to have a drug drop by 600%. I said, well, if the drug was $100 and raises to $600, that would be a 600% rise. If it drops from $600 to $100, that's a 600% savings. Trump said, right. Now, the worrisome thing about this is that so many people who back these two guys are probably homeschooling their children. So I think we have like a math time bomb that is about to detonate in another few years in this country. But I mean, I'm bad at math, and I just, oh my God. So RFK Jr., who's really, in my mind, the biggest schmuck of all, because he used to be a Democrat. He got every advantage in life, and this is what he turned out to be. So there you go.
So that means
Helen will tell you that he got married. He got lucky getting married. I mean, you know, it's
well, he's been which time? He married 3 times. So, you know.
So does that mean, Nancy, that when he's measuring raccoon genitals and they reduce there's like a 300% reduction to go flaccid.
Right, exactly.
Oy. Alan.
I'm going to go with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who appeared on a podcast and said they had sold 1,000 gold visas for $1 million. And then under oath, he admitted it was only one.
More math from the White House.
You can't make it up.
Oh God.
All right. Well, I've got two. One is, I mean, really kind of serious, barring Kash Patel, who's been mentioned before, for the report that he's had New York Times reporter Elizabeth Williamson investigated for a story she ran, which exposed the fact that he had authorized allegedly FBI SWAT squads to escort his country music singing girlfriend to various gigs, including internationally to London, England. So along with the fact that apparently he uses government planes to go to hockey games all around the country. So
I worked with her at the Washington Post. She was a very, very good reporter.
I assume you mean Miss Williamson, not Cash's girlfriend. As Bugs Bunny used to say, pronoun trouble. And the other one is Jenan Ken Van Dyke, the American soldier who was involved in special forces in the Maduro raid back in January, apparently made $400,000 off a $33,000 bet he made ahead of time. Because apparently you can place bets on anything about whether or not there was going to be a raid and a capture of Maduro. Luckily, he has been busted. So,
but how many other people in the White House are insider trading on some of this stuff?
Constantly.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's more observant people than me have noted that the improvements in the Iraq War tend to come right before closing in the afternoon, and the bad news comes overnight. So I mean, it's just
manipulation.
The open corruption in this administration is just mind-boggling. But
it is.
No question.
And here we are.
Well,
thank you again for tuning into another episode of The Week That Was. Thank you, of course, to my wonderful family of panelists here. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, and always with the last word, Alan.
Drive home safely.
Have a great weekend, everybody.